In many ways, Abu Hanifa's lifestyle was quite different from other scholars around him. Most of his academic contemporaries depended upon the caliph or rich courtiers to sustain them. Teaching was not yet a salaried profession, so those in the field had no alternative but to seek assistance in day-to-day living. Abu Hanifa strongly opposed this practice. If one received money in favours, how could one be independent and fair in judgments? For this reason, he refused any payouts or help in his finances. On one occasion, Caliph Mansur summoned Abu Hanifa to his court to settle a dispute between himself and his wife Hara.
Ah, Abu Hanifa, how many wives may a man have?
4.
Do you hear that, Hara?
Yes, I hear it.
But this permission is only for a man who is capable of doing justice. No other man can have more than 1 wife. Allah himself says, if you doubt your ability to do justice between your wives, have only 1 wife.
Abu Hanifa returned home. A little while later, Hara sent her servant after him.
The Caliph's wife sends you her respectful salutations and says that she is grateful to you for your truthful verdict. Here is a gift of 1,000 dinars.
I do not need nor require your money. Tell the Queen that I expressed my opinion not to receive any financial reward, but because it was my duty as arbitrator.
This sincerity and non-dependence on others put him in a league of his own. His business thrived as he traded in goods worth millions. His agents, scattered all over major cities, would be busy in deals with big merchants and traders. All along, he would personally make sure that no illicitly gained money came into his income, even though this sometimes led to occasional losses. On one occasion, he sent some silk to Hafs Abdul Rahman to be sold.
Sell this silk to the people, but please note, some of the pieces, but not all, have slight defects in them. Be sure to point this out to prospective buyers before they purchase.
Of course, I shall point it out before any sale. Finest silk links that the eye has ever seen! Buy now! Buy now!
Why, this is beautiful. How much is it?
This fine piece will cost you 1,000 dinars.
Hafs continued to sell all the silk pieces that he had, and before the day was over, all had been sold. He returned with the day's takings to Abu Hanifa.
Ah, Hafs, you sold it all. How did they take to the defects?
Oh, Imam, may I lose myself? I forgot to point it out. Forgive me.
Then we have no right to this money. How much did we earn from the entire day's sale?
30,000 dinars.
Give it all away to charity.
Honest and upright in all his dealings, his primary objective in business was not to make money. He saw it as a method of self-sufficiency and helping others. Through his business, he was able to help the needy and also distribute money amongst scholars annually. He was also able to subsidize his students, many of whom would otherwise have struggled to make ends meet and attend his classes. Abu Hanifa liked to dress smartly and was a man of good taste. His garments would always be clean and of good quality. His elegant and beautiful character was matched by his good looks. His speech would be eloquent and clear, making complicated issues sound so simple. Once, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid asked Abu Hanifa's eminent student, Qadi Abu Yusuf, to describe his teacher.
As far as I know, Abu Hanifa was extremely pious. Avoided forbidden things, remained silent and absorbed in his thoughts most of the time, and answered a question only if he knew the answer. He was very generous and self-respecting, never asked a favor of anybody. He shunned the company of the worldly minded, and held worldly power and position in contempt. He avoided slander, and only talked well of people. He was a man of profound learning, and as generous with his knowledge as with his money.
With this wealth and high position in society, many men would succumb to their egos. Not so Abu Hanifa. He remained gentle, polite, generous, and of noble character. Once, while he was on his way to see an acquaintance who was unwell, he came across a man who owed him 10,000 dinars. The man tried avoiding him.
Why are you trying to avoid me?
I'm ashamed to face you, as I am currently unable to repay your loan.
Well, if you are unable to repay the loan, you need not do so.
As well as being generous, Abu Hanifa was also a good neighbor. In his neighborhood there was a cobbler who would come home from work and entertain friends in the evening with wine and meat. While Abu Hanifa would be busy spending the night in prayer, the man could be heard singing, and often he would say,
Nobody cares about me. People have let me go to waste. I would have been useful in battle and siege.
Abu Hanifa would never object to his singing, simply out of neighborly consideration. One night, Abu Hanifa could not hear the singing, and on the next day inquired on his neighbor's whereabouts. He soon discovered that the police had picked up his neighbor. Abu Hanifa immediately made his way to the governor's house, who was Isa bin Musa.
Why, Abu Hanifa, why have you taken the trouble to come here? You could have sent for me.
What brings me here is that a cobbler who is my neighbor has been arrested, and I want him released.
Oh, you... Go quickly, release the cobbler at once and bring him here.
Immediately, someone was sent to release the cobbler and bring him to the governor.
Okay. Have you sobered up yet? The governor wants to see you.
My friend, you are free to go. Abu Hanifa, you may take him.
Well, my friend, have I allowed you to go to waste?
No, you have proven to be a good neighbor. From this day on, I shall never go near wine.
Later, the cobbler began to attend Abu Hanifa's classes and came to be known as a scholar. Abu Hanifa always avoided speaking ill of people, especially behind their backs. He would often thank God for saving his tongue from being contaminated from this evil. On one occasion, a man approached Abu Hanifa's great contemporary, Sufyan Thawri.
You know, Sufyan, never from the lips of Abu Hanifa do we hear anything ill with regard to other people.
Abu Hanifa is not such a fool as to ruin all his good deeds.
A man of great piety and wisdom, often hearing the words of Allah through the Quran, would cause him to weep uncontrollably. Yazid bin Kumayt, a contemporary of Abu Hanifa, relates,
I once saw the Imam and decided to join him for the Isha prayer. He was leading the people and recited the verse Ida Zulzilat, when the earth is shaken to its final earthquake. The prayer was completed and everyone departed, yet I noticed that he had not gone and was sitting and sobbing heavily. I decided not to disturb him and returned home. When I came back to the mosque the following morning, I found Abu Hanifa sitting looking sad and holding his beard tearfully. I could hear the words,
O thou who wilt reward even the smallest virtue and punish even the smallest sin, save thy slave non-men from hellfire.
Abu Hanifa's life was dedicated to serving his faith and Allah. His daily routine would reflect this. He would begin his day with the morning prayer. After this, he would take his class in the mosque. He would then reply to questions which came from far and near. After this was complete, he would then take a session in which issues of Islamic law were discussed. All his leading students would take part, with decisions reached unanimously. After the Dhuhr prayer, Abu Hanifa would then return home, and in the summer would have a siesta. The Asr prayer would then be followed by another session of teaching, after which he would go round the city, meeting friends, visiting the sick, and helping the poor. His final teaching session would be between the Maghrib and Isha. After this, he would begin his private devotions, which would often continue throughout the night. During the winter period, he would often spend the whole night in prayer. Whenever Abu Hanifa would be faced by a question which he could not answer, he would become distressed, asking himself whether he had committed some sin of which this was the punishment. He would then perform his ablution and beg for Allah's forgiveness. Somebody narrated this to the great Sufi, Fudail bin Iyad, who began weeping and replied,
Abu Hanifa did not have many sins to repent. That was why he thought thus. But those who are drowned in sin have innumerable calamities sent down upon them, and yet do not realize that these are warnings from Allah.
Abu Hanifa was fully aware how the human psyche operated. On one occasion, a man came to see him. He seemed distressed.
Abu Hanifa, I kept some money somewhere in my house, but now I do not remember exactly where. I now need the money badly. Please, tell me how I can find it.
I do not find this kind of problem mentioned in Islamic law. Why have you come to me for advice? The best course of action is to go home and pray throughout the night.
The man returned home and began praying. He prayed for a little while, when suddenly he remembered where he had put the money. He immediately ran to Abu Hanifa, thanking him for his advice.
Oh, Abu Hanifa, it worked, I found my money.
Of course. Satan could not bear the idea of your praying for a whole night, so he made you remember at once where you had put your money. However, you ought to have prayed throughout the night by way of giving thanks to Allah.
Throughout his life, Abu Hanifa's relationship with the ruling caliphate was delicate. His piety and intelligence had kept him away from the ruling courtyards and influences of the palaces. The Caliph Mansur pressed Abu Hanifa to take the position of judge. He continued refusing, and this led to his imprisonment. Such was Abu Hanifa's popularity that while in prison, students came from far and wide to visit and study with him. Mansur realized the popularity that Abu Hanifa enjoyed, fully understanding that he had no choice but to continue allowing Abu Hanifa to teach, even behind bars. Mansur was becoming agitated with the situation that he faced. Abu Hanifa was too popular, and he feared no one. His legal rulings and fatwas could not be influenced. Furthermore, Mansur knew full well what Abu Hanifa thought of the ruling powers, and that he was not afraid to express his opinions. Then, in the year 150 Hijri, Mansur decided he could no longer cope with Abu Hanifa. Whether in prison or out, he constituted a danger to the Abbasid government. Mansur decided to do away with Abu Hanifa. He had him poisoned. Abu Hanifa attended his last prayer in front of his Lord. Then, while in a state of prostration, the final effects of the poison took hold, and Abu Hanifa died while in that posture. He was aged 70 years. A man that had spent his entire life in the service of his Creator and humanity breathed his last while worshipping his Master, a fitting end to a life of worship and service. Sadness engulfed the region and the whole Abbasid Empire as news spread of Abu Hanifa's death. Thousands made their way to the prison to confirm what they had heard. The task of washing the body in preparation for the funeral was left to the city judge, who was Hassan bin Amara. While washing the body, he would repeat to himself,
By Allah, you were the greatest scholar and the most pious man of our time. You had all the qualities of greatness in you. You were, indeed, so great that nobody after you may reach your level.
The people of knowledge all over knew and fully understood the blow of his death. When visiting Baghdad upon Abu Hanifa's death, Abdullah bin Mubarak stated,
Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on you. When Ibrahim died, he left a successor, and so did Hamad. But alas, there is no one in the whole world to take your place.
Over 50,000 people attended the first funeral prayer, yet they kept on coming, so much so that the prayer had to be performed 6 times over, and was not until sunset that the final burial took place. Abu Hanifa had left instructions that he was to be buried in any land which the ruler had not misappropriated, but he died in Baghdad and was buried there. Upon hearing Abu Hanifa's request, Mansur said,
Who will save me from Abu Hanifa, both when he was alive and now he is dead?
Abu Hanifa was survived by an only son, Hamad, who himself was to grow into a great scholar. Hamad followed in his father's footsteps, keeping himself aloof from the corridors of power. He had no concerns for worldly affairs, and was well known for his piety. Abu Hanifa left behind a great legacy such that the majority of Muslims around the world follow his understanding of Islamic law. Amongst his foremost students were Abu Yusuf, Hassan as-Shaybani, and Zafar ibn Hudayl. Often, when seeing his students, Abu Hanifa would remark,
"You are the joy of my heart and the removal of my sorrow."
Abu Hanifa had around 918 dedicated students. From amongst these, around 40 assisted him in the codification of Islamic law. Each of them was specialist in their own areas. Once, a man approached the great scholar Waqi and suggested that Abu Hanifa had made an error on a certain question. He responded,
"Well, how could Abu Hanifa commit an error? He had eminent men to assist him. In analogy, Abu Yusuf and Zafar. In hadith, Yahya bin Zayda, Hafs bin Riyad, Haban and Mundal. In lexicography and the Arabic language, Kazin bin Ma'an. In devotion and piety, Dawood al-Tayyi and Fudel bin Riyad. How could one, with such men by his side, commit an error? Even if he were to commit one, would these men let him do so?"
Often, the statement is made that you should judge a teacher according to their students. If this is the case, then Abu Hanifa propels himself to lofty heights, heights that very few have ever reached. His outstanding abilities and innovative methods of teaching forced his students to think and stretch their minds. His style was unique. He would enter his class and suddenly throw a complex issue at his students. Debate would then occur, and consensus would then be reached, and a verdict derived. He encouraged his students to challenge his opinion. Far from being offended, he saw it as a way of deriving the truth. It was a method of teaching unique to Abu Hanifa's school, and is one of the reasons his school of thought gained such eminence. He was blessed with amazing insight, and was able to view issues in a way that others could not. On one occasion, a man approached Abu Hanifa and his students and posed a bizarre question.
I have a question. What do you say about a man who doesn't aspire for paradise, doesn't fear hell, and doesn't fear Allah? He eats dead meat, prays without ruku and sujood, and bears witness to that which he cannot see. He hates the truth and loves trials. He escapes and runs away from mercy. He believes the Jews and the Christians.
So, my students, what do you think?
This is a clear description of a disbeliever.
No, on the contrary, this is the description of a pious man. He aspires for the Creator of the heavens, and fears the Creator of hell, and he fears no injustice from Allah. He eats fish, and he prays the funeral prayer. He bears witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger, yet he hasn't seen either. He hates the truth, which is death, because he wishes to obey Allah for longer. The trials are his children and money. Mercy is the rain, and he believes the Jews when they say the Christians have nothing to stand for, and he believes the Christians when they say the Jews have nothing to stand for.
In this incident, Abu Hanifa found a reasonable explanation for each situation where there didn't seem to be one. This was a combination of always thinking good of people, as well as seeing things which others would innocently miss. His amazing insight would help his students develop their thought and intelligence. With this group of students, Imam Abu Hanifa codified Islamic law. Previous to this, the rules that governed Islam were preserved through oral tradition and had not been codified into any coherent discipline. There were no methods of reasoning, no rules for the derivation of orders, no grading of traditions, and no principles of analogical deduction. Imam Abu Hanifa was aware that Islam had spread to far and distant lands, and a new multitude of situations connected with Islamic law had arisen, which could only be dealt with through some legal code. His extensive experience with trade and public affairs acquainted him with the legal requirements of the society of the day. He was constantly receiving hundreds of legal questions from all over the Islamic world, and was fully aware of the mistakes of the jurists, both of these strengthened his resolve to put a legal system in place. A delicate and gigantic project, Imam Abu Hanifa undertook it with all the intelligence and wisdom that had come to symbolize him. He surrounded himself with specialists in all the Islamic disciplines, forming a board of his most trusted students. No conclusion was ever recorded unless all the members of the board were present and the decision was reached unanimously. Thanks to this compilation, Imam Abu Hanifa's school became a veritable law college, whose alumni were then, in turn, appointed in large numbers to judicial and administrative posts. Unfortunately, no works of Abu Hanifa himself remain with us today. Instead, we have the writings of two of his foremost students, Abu Yusuf and Muhammad Hassan al-Shaybani, who presented the legal questions dealt with by Abu Hanifa in a more detailed manner with elaborate annotations. Imam Abu Hanifa pioneered the formulation of the rules of deduction, which made Islamic law a regular science. It was an astonishing achievement, which no other man was capable of at a time when the religious sciences were still in their infancy. The beauty of Imam Abu Hanifa lay in his ability to accept criticism and disagreement from his students. Motivated solely by a search for the truth, he would often say,
"This is our opinion. It is the best we can determine. If anyone comes with a better position, he is more entitled to be correct than we are."
It is a famous point of fact that Imam Abu Hanifa's two foremost students, Abu Yusuf and Muhammad Hassan al-Shaybani, differed from their teacher in many rulings. The legal system that came to be known as the Hanafi school spread all over the Islamic world. The Hanafi school became the main legal system from Asia Minor to Bukhara. Most rulers of Islamic empires and countries followed this system. The decline of the Abbasids saw various dynasties rise to power. The powerful and warrior Seljuks, who ruled for a long period the lands between Jerusalem and Constantinople, adopted the Hanafi school. The Turkish sultans, who gave birth to the Ottoman Empire, adopted the school, as did the Mughal Empire of the subcontinent. In short, the Hanafi school has enjoyed vast exposure that no other school can match. As a result, Hanafi scholars of latter periods have added much to it, not only by elaborating principles, but also by way of formulating them. Some of the greatest works in legal philosophy were developed by Hanafi jurists. Chief amongst these are works on the methodology of law derivation by Abu Bakr al-Razi al-Jassas in the 4th century, as well as other works later on. This development could not have occurred without the initial stages set in place by Imam Abu Hanifa. Muslims all over the world owe their understanding of Islam and its rules to Imam Abu Hanifa. His derivation of rules in the fields of ritual worship, civil life, criminal systems, penal and revenue laws, contracts, inheritance and wills and other matters are a service that the Muslim world would be at a loss without. His contribution is not lost on other scholars of differing schools. Their praise and respect for Imam Abu Hanifa is undoubted. Imam Shafi once remarked,
"The person who wishes to excel in Islamic law is bound to be in need of Abu Hanifa. Imam Abu Hanifa is one of the personalities who is divinely guided with deep understanding by Allah."
Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal once, while asked about Abu Hanifa, said,
Subhanallah! In matters of knowledge, piety, abstinence from the dunya and preference to the hereafter, he occupied such a lofty stage that nobody else would be able to occupy it. He was undoubtedly lashed for the simple reason that he declined the post of a judge offered to him by Abu Ja'far Mansur. May Allah shower his mercy upon him, and may he attain the pleasure of Allah.
Islam is preserved through great men like Imam Abu Hanifa, men who are able to distinguish themselves through their remarkable intelligence and piety. Their amazing ability, gifted to them by Allah, is witnessed by Muslims all over the world, who to this day follow the Quran and prophetic message through the teachings of such men. In a time when religious learning has been relegated to a secondary status, we must remember and understand the true nature of knowledge. Imam Abu Hanifa has left behind a legacy that indeed will not be surpassed. For as time progresses, so we will see the removal of knowledge as foretold by the Messenger of Allah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. In Imam Abu Hanifa, we have one of the shining lights of the Muslim world, a man who was blessed with immense intelligence and sincerity, who gave immense service to Islam and the Muslims. Known as the Great Imam, Al-Imam Al-A'zam, his rank and honor has been preserved for over 1200 years, a blessing from Allah Most High. Success is in the hands of the Creator, and to Him do we turn for salvation and guidance. May Allah accept the efforts of Imam Abu Hanifa and grant him the highest stations of paradise, and may his legacy inspire others on the blessed path of seeking knowledge.